Hello. Today is the start of a new adventure. I am going to start reading The Lord of the Rings. I have never read these before. I have seen the movies. I had seen them once when I was young, and then I watched them within the past year. So I do have an idea of the plot and the progression of things, but I imagine that a lot is missing in terms of characters, I'm sure even plot points, lore of the world. So I am quite intrigued to read these. If you do not know, I am fairly new to reading fantasy and finding that I enjoy it. So if you had asked me maybe a year and a half ago, I would have told you I would never pick up these books. And then I read A Song of Ice and Fire and enjoyed it, and I've read Mistborn and The Fifth Season and a few others and have quite enjoyed my reading experience. So I decided to finally give these a try. I'm doing a buddy read of these with one of my subscribers, Mariana, so I'm very excited to be reading these with someone who has already read them. Since starting this vlog, Mariana has actually made a channel, Mariana Moss Books. I will link it below. You should definitely check her out. And I wanted to bring you on the adventure because when I did my TBR of fantasy series I wanted to read, this obviously, because it is the most well-known, was the one people were talking about, said they all really didn't, said they all really enjoyed it. I will be giving my thoughts, so I am going to be spoiling the book throughout this. So if you have not read these, don't want to be spoiled, don't watch this. I'm going to start giving updates here and there. I am starting it today. I have it on my Kindle, and for people who own Kindles, when you had your Kindle off, there would be this like blank screen, and it would have just like random images on it, and you couldn't pick them, but recently they upgraded. So now you could have it show the book you're reading on your off screen. So anyway, if you wanted to change that setting and you have a Kindle, now you know. I will check in eventually. So just this last weekend, I was reading the D&D Player's Handbook because we're doing a new campaign or like a one-shot campaign, so I was making my character. And I was reading through all of the different races you could be. And then as I'm reading the prologue of this, which is all about hobbits for people who haven't read The Hobbit like myself, kind of getting you up to speed on things, I just kept thinking, this literally sounds like I'm reading a race from the Player's Handbook of D&D, which I know this came before D&D, and D&D kind of is inspired by Lord of the Rings. But then I'm like questioning, like, why couldn't I play a hobbit? Like, they're very well described, their nature's described, like their fears of water, things like that. But anyway, it was the first thoughts that went through my head as I started my journey into the Lord of the Rings. So Frodo was in his 50s when this happened? I've literally always thought he was like in his 20s. And in the book, it's explained that he doesn't really age in the same way that Bilbo doesn't really age. But then that would mean Pippin and Merry, yeah, would be in their 50s and would look in their 50s, and so would Sam. So Gandalf is telling Frodo everything about the ring, and Frodo's like, oh, I wish that I wasn't chosen. This is so bad. Oh my god. And Gandalf was like, yeah, you weren't chosen for any reason. It kind of just happened to you. It's not your valor. It's not your strength. It's just like, you're just stuck with the problem. Who knows why I chose you, bud? So then Frodo's like, well, Gandalf, why don't you take it? And Gandalf is like, I am much too strong and powerful for that. Do not tempt me. My powers and its powers together, psh. But you, he doesn't say this, subtext, you are just a small hobbit with no extraordinary powers, so the ring will not be as tempted by you, and you not as much by it. So we started walking and we're not on the adventure part yet. We're with Pippin currently, and they're walking to the new home. And they kind of treat Sam like a servant, and he kind of responds to them like that. It's like a yes sir, no sir type of thing. So when I hear people talk about this series, they talk about how Sam is such a great friend to Frodo. So I'm interested to see how that dynamic changes and or develops so it doesn't feel like there's a power play happening. So Sam had been spying on Frodo this whole time? And the Gandalf thing was just the time he got caught, and he was doing it for Merry and Pippin because Merry and Pippin were like, bro, Frodo, you've literally been going around to every place that you've ever been and muttering to yourself about how this might be the last time you see it. Obviously, we could tell something was up. That's just so funny to me. So we just left Tom's house. And I'm just very confused by that scene. In that chapter, really. Like, I don't get who he was, how he interacted with the ring, and them was a little strange. I, kept feeling like something bad was gonna happen, and then nothing bad happened. And I'm wondering if he comes back into play, because it seems so random if he doesn't, but this wasn't in the movies, so I honestly have no idea what's going on here. So now I kind of feel like an asshole for doubting Tom because they were just in trouble again and he came out to save them. But I'm still really curious about him because I was just thinking about him more and he kind of made it seem like he's been alive since before the evil took root. And I wonder if he predates the rings. I hope he comes back into play at some point. Aragorn. Do not refer to yourself as Strider in third person. It is not a good look. There are so many songs. So many songs. So many songs. New theory. All hobbits are actually bards and they just don't know it. Okay, here's an example of what I'm talking about with Sam and Frodo's relationship. They're at the dinner that's kind of in Frodo's honor because Frodo just woke up and they're at Elrond's humble abode or whatever the heck it's called. And it goes, he looked first for his friends. Sam had begged to be allowed to wait on his master, but had been told that for this time he was a guest of honor. Okay. His relationship to Frodo does not strike me as one of friendship, and I mean things might change as this series goes on, but I'm not convinced that this is a friendship and there's an even power dynamic. You don't call a friend a master, and he doesn't refer to Pippin and Merry in that capacity. It's just a little strange, and I just see so many people talk about how good of a friend Sam is, but I'm really questioning if it's a friendship at all. Okay, so apparently I'm a dodo, and a hobbit is a halfling, and you can play them in Dungeons and Dragons. I'm at the Council of Elrond right now, and they just referred to a hobbit as a halfling, and I was like, oh, okay, never mind. So I'm in the Council of Elrond right now, and everyone's kind of giving their piece. I'm not all the way through it, but I just kind of wanted to comment on it because it's something, it's not a negative about this book, but there's with some books like this where you really just have one point of view you're focusing on. This is in third person, but you're really following Frodo. You have to have these moments of people word vomiting and you get info dumped, and it's happening right now through the Council of Elrond. We're kind of coming up to speed on everything that has happened with all of these people, and we skip over the stuff we already know, which is nice, but we're recounting people's journeys and everything. And one thing that newer fantasy does that I appreciate is giving multiple perspectives so that you don't have to have these types of moments because you already saw it. So you don't have to, like, it's just like a more interesting structure of storytelling. This is the same day. I literally just got a page farther, but I don't quite understand what Sauron is. Like, is he like a full entity, or is he like an apparition? Like, what kind of being or creature is he? I have never really gotten the vibe or totally understood. Like, there's something that seems like ethereal, like he's lacking a body in some form, but I really have no idea. We'll see if I figure it out or not. Elrond is like so convinced that all of the hobbits cannot be in the Fellowship of the Rings. And Pippin's just like threatening to like, you'll have to lock me in prison or send me home tied in a sack. And so they're all about to set off from Rivendell? Is that Riverdell? Rivendell? I don't know. And like, I mean, it's intense. Like, they know they're gonna be in danger. They're like literally going to Mount Doom and like into the heart of not their territory. And Bilbo's like, good luck. I don't suppose you'd be able to keep a diary, but like keep a full account. Don't be gone long. XOXO. And it's like, Bilbo, like, Frodo could die, dude. Are you not understanding the severity of what's happening right now? Yes, I do only read in this one spot, in case you were wondering. Yeah, so they keep getting thwarted by evilness. Like, they try to go up the mountain, and then, like, it snows just, like, around them, and kind of stops them from being able to go. And then there's these wolves that come, and then they, like, kill them, but then in the morning there are no dead bodies. And then they're, like, going to the gate of Moria, or whatever it is, and the thing with tentacles in the water grabs for them. It all feels like general evil and kind of feels like soft magic. I'm wondering if it's just like the evil is attracted to the ring. It's never said that specifically, but that's kind of what's making sense to me, I think. I hope we're not in the mines of Moria for long because, like, I really do not like reading scenes that take place underground in the dark where there's a lot of twists and turns. Long story short, I was in Iceland a few years ago and we went into a lava tube and we thought we got lost because we couldn't find the way back. Like, we started going somewhere and it didn't look familiar. And I almost had a panic attack, and it was really awful. And yeah, once we found our way out, we had to go back to the geothermal river to like for hours to kind of calm down. So I don't like dark, windy, twisty places underground. So reading this, I'm like, I hope they're out of here soon. I also think I'm right with my evilness theory because Frodo is just like thinking about how he can feel evil like ahead of them and before them, and he is the ring bearer, so I think that the ring gives him more of a sense of evilness around as well. Okay, so reading the scene after Gandalf the Grey dies just made me think of something I kind of want to touch on that I've been thinking about a lot, and it's it's mainly male characters, which, you know, I'm not a huge fan of, but I'd rather it than like poorly written female characters, and for the time period, whatever. That's one of the reasons I was hesitant on books like this, just in general, because I typically prefer books by women. Um, but I part of the reason I don't like reading books by men is that women a lot of the time aren't written very well. But another thing is like this masculine energy that you get in books. And I have been very surprised by the lack of toxic maleness in this. I guess I'm pretty surprised because like Sam is very like he cries at everything. I don't really like I don't want to fit genders into a box, but society definitely does. And so just because of the time this was written, I was really expecting it to do that. And the characters are all male, but I wouldn't say they're masculine in the way that I was expecting them to be. And because of like the times this was written, and I'm curious if gender norms weren't quite the same at the time that this was written, or if Tolkien himself was kind of breaking down those barriers. Like, and I think I've been thinking this throughout my reading experience, but what got me on it was after Gandalf the Grey dies, all of the characters like sit down and cry for a little bit, and that was just unexpected. So, if it wasn't obvious from my last clip, it should be now. I am in a hotel. I am traveling for work. It is a Saturday, and I'm very sweaty. It's very warm outside, and I decided to go to a used bookstore because what else would I do when I have some time off on a Saturday in a new town? So I went to it was kind of like a half-price books. It was like that kind of style and feel. It was very big. They sold like used games and used movies and stuff like that. And I found this copy of Lord of the Rings, and it was $1.25, so obviously I had to get it. Here it is. It is an old version of it. I thought it was really cute. It has a foreword from Tolkien that I have not read in my version, so I will read that after I finish the book. It's an old library book. It looks like this was printed in 1973 during the 41st printing. So it's a relatively old version. I always think it's funny that like how book prices have really escalated, and when you buy used books that are old books, you're actually paying more than the original price. So like if you can see here, this book was 95 cents when it was originally published, and I paid $1.25 for it. So I actually paid more than the original price on the book, as it being a used book like 50 years later. So we just got our first introductions to Smeagol in the last chapter I read. He's not named, but there's a creature that's seen running around on all fours, and like they're not able to find it, and it climbed up the tree, and Frodo looked it directly in the eye. So I'm really excited to have Smeagol introduced. I thought the dialogue was subpar when I started, and it was kind of like, okay, well, Tolkien doesn't have to be good at everything, you know. The world building was suffice enough for me to want to keep reading, but I don't know if it's gotten better or have gotten used to it. But as the dialogue has gone on, I've enjoyed it a lot more. It's very quippy. All the characters have really funny one-liners that they say, and I'm overall just really enjoying it at this point. So yeah, I'm not sure if it was a perspective change or there was actually some like tonal shift in dialogue that occurred. One more thing I kind of just want to chat through. I know I've talked about this a lot, but just the conversation I've been having, the one-sided conversation I've been having, at least on here, around Sam and Frodo's relationship. As I said at the beginning, I'm doing a buddy read with Mariana, and she kind of said that Sam, admires Bilbo and grew up on his stories and grew up, caring for his home and stuff, and he admires Bilbo so much that admiration and awe of him probably transferred to an awe of Frodo. And he just, treats him with more reverence because of that past, and it was a perspective I hadn't thought of at all, and I don't know if I completely agree or disagree, but it's giving me a different perspective as I'm reading, and I'm quite interested to see Sam and Frodo's conversations when the book 2 starts and the fellowship is disintegrated. Aragorn says, "O Lady of Lorien, of whom were sprung Celebrian and Arwen Evenstar, or Ebenstar, what praise could I say more? I thought Arwen was Elrond's daughter. Is she not? Or do those two have a child together? Am I wrong? Am I confused? Did the movie do something different? I don't know." So I just really liked this line. Boromir was saying that something was an old wives' tale, and Celeborn said, "But do not despise the lore that has come down from distant years, for oft it may chance that old wives keep in memory word of things that once were needful for the wise to know." Okay, I just finished the first book, and, really liked it. I don't know if I'm surprised. I'm surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I was worried that the writing style wasn't going to work for me, and it really did. At the beginning, I was worried about the stilted dialogue and the characters not being interesting, which I don't think that the characters are super well fleshed out, but I did really start to pick up and enjoy the dialogue. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where it goes. I think I'm more excited for what is to come, and that's how I've been feeling this whole time through. I've been oh yeah, I've continuously begun enjoying myself more and more. So one thing, just in the last chapter, this happens in the movie where Frodo's trying to leave without everyone else, and Sam figures it out and goes running after him and runs into the river, and I didn't think much of it in the book, or in the movie, but in the books it's very clear he's terrified of water, so him just going straight into the river and being "You're not leaving without me," I was I can see why everyone loves Sam. I mean, he's just a very charming character. I'm gonna watch the movie now. I'm gonna watch the extended version. I finished the movie, and there were definitely quite a bit of differences. I preferred in the movie how it alluded to Boromir's difficulty fighting the power of the ring. I don't think the books did that as much. And then with Legolas and Gimli, you knew elves and dwarves didn't like each other in the movie, but I preferred how it was shown in the books, and that it kind of went into more detail of the issues that they had and why dwarves and elves didn't get along, and then it kind of made them friends. And there's the hair scene with Gimli, which is in both of them, and in both of them I'm is elven hair valuable? Why did this happen? It's a little creepy, but anyway, I digress. I was also surprised by where the book ended, because Boromir didn't die, and there were no orcs in that scene at the end. So I looked at the next chapter, the first chapter of the next part, and it's like the end of Boromir or the leaving of Boromir or something like that. So I definitely understand why the movie did that, because the book did not leave off on a dynamic scene. I don't even know if that's what happens in the next one, obviously. This is just a vlog for the Fellowship. But yeah, overall, I had a really great experience reading this. I'm surprised. I thought I was gonna have more qualms with it, but I really just did appreciate it for what it was when it was written. And yeah, I had a good time. So I think that's all I got for this video. I will be doing a part 2 and a part 3 when I read those. Let me know your thoughts. If you want to go into spoilers, like, let's do it. Like, people shouldn't be on this video if they don't want to know what happens in Lord of the Rings. Anyway, I will talk to you soon. Until next time, happy reading.